Okay, let's clear this up. If there is anyone who knows anything about being cool, it is I, Will from Ghosthack. There's no debate about this. There are just certain universal truths to the world, and that is one of them. But listen, I'm a humble guy. I'm also a generous guy. Who would I be if I were to just keep all of this cool to myself? I mean, arguably I'd just be cooler that way, but that's not cool. What is cool is the list I have for you today, which is my top 5 coolest free plugins. Now, when I say cool, this is kind of what I mean. I'm not gonna pull up a free piano VST that's, you know, extra high quality, or maybe a synth that has like a bunch of presets that are super useful. When I'm talking cool, I'm talking something unique. It sort of brings something new to the table. And for me especially, I'm a big fan of sound design. I also like really weird and heavy music, and I like basses and weird, heavy, low frequency sounds. That will definitely factor into this list. If you like anything like that, then this is definitely the video for you. Some of these plugins here are generally known. Some of these plugins here are not generally known. There's a couple of actual instruments, and there's 3 other effect plugins. So there's kind of a wide variety of different stuff.
Plugin number 1
is probably a plugin that a good amount of you saw coming. If you're into sound design, you know this plugin. It's vital. I couldn't keep it off the list. This plugin is just so dang cool. It's very similar to Serum in a lot of ways. It's primarily a wavetable synthesizer. It's got 3 different oscillators as well as a noise oscillator. It's got filters, LFOs, envelopes, a whole effect section, the whole shebang. And now I actually did do a whole video on Vital already. You can find the link to that in the description below if you're curious. You should definitely check it out. But I don't think I'm going to waste too much time going over it. I think wavetable synthesizers are generally common enough that most people understand how they work. Again, if you don't, you can check out our video on the subject, but these are some of the sounds that you can get from using Vital. Again, free. So that's just a little bit from Vital, and keep in mind, that's with no post-processing at all. It's very powerful.
Plugin number 2.
I don't know if I'm gonna keep doing that the whole time. That's not really Pog. But cool plugin number 2 is called Fracture. We've actually, I've actually done a video about this one too, but I just wanted to highlight it real quick because it's so interesting the way that it works. And again, if you're a sound designer, you really will like this. It's like a granular synthesizer, but in like an effects version. It's really strange. It only granularly affects the audio going into it. Like I could take this vocal.
Melting to the imprisoned image of a damaged mind, ravaged by an unforgiving time.
That's just default in FL Studio. And I could flip on Fracture and start messing around with some of these properties here, mainly in this section. As long as I turn the dry wet all the way up, I should be pretty good. But hear how it kind of chops this up. And as I mess with these values, it kind of just warps it around and bends it and sort of twists it into something different.
Image of a
Some of the results coming out of this plugin are kind of funny, but that's the point, is to just sort of chop it up and mess it up and turn it into something different. Again, I made a video about this plugin as well. I used it for a lot of bass action, and here's just a quick example of some of the weird sort of distorted basses and interesting things I could come up with, like glitchy effects I could come up with using Fracture.
Plugin number 3.
Okay, no, I'm not going to do that anymore. But the next plugin that I'm going to pull up is probably something that a good amount of people know about because it's from iZotope. You've probably seen me use it if you've watched it on my live streams, but if you don't know about it, you really should. This plugin is iZotope Vinyl that recently got a little bit of an update. And basically this is going to do exactly what you'd imagine it would do. It would take something and then it will warp it and kind of change it up to make it sound like it's coming from a vinyl record. You could take a little loop such as this. And we can use vinyl to make it sound like it's coming from a record player. So let's look here. First off, we can set the year that we want this vinyl to be. If we set it to 2000, then it's obviously going to be the most like highest quality, or we could go all the way back to 1930. But it doesn't just have these effects, because that's essentially just filtering. It also has some other stuff, such as you can affect the amount of wear that's on the record. You can see it gets kind of distorted as well as low passed. You can select things like lo-fi. And there's a spin down option. You just pull the plug from the record player. And there's also an RPM option here, and that's actually linked to this warp right here. So we can set a warp. You see how now it's kind of a little lazy. The record isn't moving at exactly the same speed all the time, and we can control how fast it is with the RPM. Going up and down, and then this would be slower. Also, you can add dust, which you can hear a little bit of in the background. Hear those little dust scratches. And that'll just be going on all the time. I personally kind of keep that down, but you could add mechanical noise. You can add the electrical noise to mix that in as well. And you can even add some scratches. So it kind of skips and glitches around a little bit if you want. That's also something I don't tend to use, but it's cool that it's there. So if you make lo-fi, this is the #1 plugin for you, basically. And again, it's free. All of these are, man. Now, the next plugin I'm going to show you is a really interesting one, and it's especially cool to use just in experimental ways where you're not quite sure what's going to happen. And this plugin is ValhallaFreqEcho. Now, you may know Valhalla for things like reverbs. There's Valhalla Room. There's Shimmer. Those are some popular plugins by Valhalla. But they made this little free plugin, which is FreqEcho. And this is just really neat, in my opinion. Like, listen to this percussion loop. And now listen to what FreqEcho does to it. And I can kind of mess around with the different values here. Whoa. See, that's just fun. Straight up fun right there. Oh, I can make it bigger. Oh, I didn't know I could do that. That's even cooler. Extra cool points to FreqEcho. I can't stop just turning knobs. It's so much fun. I don't think there's too much I have to say about this plugin. I can't tell you exactly 100% how it works. It's definitely delays and echoes going on here. You have things that you understand, such as mix, delay, and feedback, but the shift seems to be kind of like a harmonic shift in the echo. It also seems to shift in your earphones. It's kind of strange. Not sure exactly how it works, but I'm totally fine with not knowing. It's just cool. And now for the final plugin on this list of my top 5 coolest plugins. This, in my opinion, is the MVP of the list. Not that it's more useful than all the others, not that I will actually use this one more than the others, but because it's just so interesting to me, the idea behind it. This plugin is simply called Burt. It's from a company called Noisebud, and I'm a Burt fan, right? I'm on Burt's team here. The whole idea behind Burt is that it's going to provide us with something that is fairly simple, fairly understandable, sounds that you could get from other plugins, but they're going to be kind of broken and weird and corrupted. Like the waveforms you have here, like sine, saw, ram, triangle, pulse, white noise, pink noise, they're all just normal sounds, right? That you would find in other plugins, but these are sort of strange. It's like a synthesizer got kind of thrown in the blender and then pieced together. It's like the circuit board got kind of bent a little bit. Like, it's not exactly perfect. Like, this is a sine wave. And as you can see, even just from looking up here, let me make this a little bigger. There's like some extra harmonics and things on top of this sine wave. It's not perfect, and we can see in the saw that it's not exactly perfect either. You can go through with all of these. They're sort of broken and strange. And it gives it just a really raw kind of analog feel, especially when you mix everything else, because it starts from the oscillator and goes down and then goes through the crusher and everything else, then goes through the filter and then the LFO, and then there's the master. So just think of that as the effect chain here. So let's say we just have it on a pulse like that. We can control some pulse width. We can have some portamento. We can move on to the crusher, which is like some different forms of distortion, which don't seem to do too much right now. But these actually become extremely vital, especially when we go into the filters, right? Like here's a low pass filter. We have it right now connected to the ADSR. Right here. Oh wait, we're on triangle. Let me switch back to pulse. Oh, okay. Now we got some a little dirtier. Oh, this scream connected to the resonance is actually really cool. Whoa. We could go on to the LFO, maybe change this to a saw wave. That's interesting. Oh, also another thing I forgot, there's this LFO speed control. It's kind of hard to read. Maybe the design of Burt isn't flawless, but we can change it from static to velocity. And now the harder I press down on my keyboard, the faster the LFO is going to be. Like here's a light press. And now here's a heavy press. You hear how fast it's going? Here's a medium press. Like that speed is constantly changing, which is fun. But I'm going to be completely honest, Burt is actually the most impressive when you run it through some other processing that brings out all those little imperfections and all the cool, what are they called? It's like when something's left over, like artifacts, they bring out all the artifacts. Like let me run this through my Thicc rack right now. It's gonna get very loud, but this is just going through my Thicc rack, which we have a tutorial on, link in the description. Now we're getting somewhere thick. And this was just kind of a dirty, acidy bass that I came up with. Like, here's a few more presets that just came with Burt. Again, these are all running through my effect chain just for sort of maximum effect here. So Burt is definitely an interesting character. Again, I don't know how much I'm actually going to be using Burt over other plugins, but I have a lot of fun messing around with it. And I think it's really cool, the kind of just really harsh, raw, analog kind of sounds that I can get from it. It sounds just really gritty and corrupted. It's really interesting. So like I said, he may not be the MVP, but I'm on Burt's team here. So there we go. That is my list of my personal top 5 coolest free plugins. Now, I want to reiterate just one more time, I didn't make this list out of utilitarian value of the plugins. Like, it's not like these are the plugins that I use all the time. I mean, I do use Vital a good bit because it is very utilitarian, but that it doesn't apply to all of the plugins here. I simply wanted to highlight the cool plugins, the unique ones that kind of brought something new to the table that is hard to get in other places. And them also being free gives them extra cool points in my book. And like I said, Burt's my personal favorite of the bunch, but let me know what your favorite plugin out of all of these was as well. And if you have a favorite free plugin that you think is cool that could have been on this list, let me know as well, because that's stuff that not only me, but I'm sure everyone else down in the comments can benefit from. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one. Happy producing. Also, stay cool.